everyone, it's Belinda Weaver here, and it's time for our AMA. Of course, AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. This is a monthly space where you get to ask me any questions that you have, pick my brain, tap into the experience and knowledge that I've built up over quite a few years as a copywriter. These are the kind of sessions that I have in my private coaching group, Confident Copywriting. And right now, we're going to run one here. So we've got lots of fantastic questions and I'm just going to dig in. But if you are watching live, let me know that you're there. Say good day in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Say hello. And if you're watching the replay, let me know with #replay. That's how we roll here. So, oh my gosh, I have so many windows open. Who else has so many windows open all the time? All right, I finally found the thread and we're going to get underway. So the first question I'm going to answer. First question is from Tash Adlam. Just going down the list here. And Tash says, hi Belinda. Hi Tash. Do you still reach out to potential clients or do they all come to you first? How long did it take you to get to that level? Excellent question, Tash. So, oh, hi, Amy. Just wanted to say hello. Excellent. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Tash, your question. My marketing has always, the goal of my marketing has always been to get clients to reach out to me. Now, my first few clients actually came through a referral. So this is the power of letting everybody know that you are a copywriter and you are accepting clients, right? This is a space where you have to kind of own that copywriter label a little bit before you might feel as comfortable doing it. And so I let everyone know that I was a copywriter, and that included creating some social media profiles and starting to talk about copywriting, right? Talk about, excuse me, I had lunch really quickly before we started, so I apologize for just flicking my teeth. So create some social media profiles. Start talking about copywriting. And if you're not creating content about copywriting, curate content about copywriting. That means sharing articles and videos and posts from other copywriters. That still helps to position you in the copywriting space, right? So talk about the thing that you want to be known for. That's the first piece. I was also reaching out to people who I knew could refer work to me. People like graphic designers, website developers, right? And printers as well. Because these are people who get approached to create pieces of marketing, brochures, flyers, websites. And inevitably, the process gets bottlenecked when that person says, all right, the design's all done. Where's your copy? And the client goes, where's my what? Right? So those businesses really benefit by having an arm of copywriters that they can just refer work onto. So when I got started, I created some social media profiles. I started talking about copywriting. I started introducing myself to people who I knew their clients would need copywriting services at one point or another. And I also joined a mentoring group to get help to build my business, because I had no idea what I was doing building a business, and I felt really lost just researching everything online. So my very first lead actually came through that mentoring group, but the subsequent leads I got came from graphic designers and website developers. Then eventually my marketing efforts started paying off and people started contacting me through my social media channels. Excuse me. And I was getting my website developed and stuff like that as well. So relationships delivered leads before my marketing, but as part of my marketing, I was creating those relationships and nurturing them. And so how long did it take? It took a few months before people started contacting me. But that was a few months of really consistent marketing. Now, SEO wasn't really on my horizon at that point, so I was really working the networks. I was going to networking gigs, events. Remember when we could still go and meet people face to face? I was really going to as many as I could and introducing myself as copywriter and making business contacts and following up with them as well. I was introducing myself to people who I could, who I knew would be able to refer work to me because we shared a client base. And I was really doing what I could to nurture those relationships because I knew it would take a while for my outbound marketing to start pulling clients into me. But that's really where I put my focus. Now, some of the extra tips that we share in the Hot Copy podcast, there's an episode all about finding clients, is actually approaching local businesses and offering to write some copy for them in exchange for a testimonial and a portfolio piece. Now, you could do it simply in exchange for a testimonial or a portfolio piece, or you could do it kind of at a discount as well as getting the testimonial and portfolio piece. So there are a couple of different ways to get clients out on your books, right? So it's not really one thing. You should be doing all these things and you should be continuing to do them on a continual basis, right? Always be marketing, even when you're busy. Especially when you're busy, because marketing is like a big water wheel. It only takes a little bit of effort once it's going. But once you let that water wheel of marketing lose its momentum, it takes a lot of effort to get it going again. So I hope that helps, Tash. Really concentrate on marketing. It is the lifeblood of how successful you will be as a business owner, as a copywriter. But in those early stages, reach out to people, make connections, and foster those relationships, and let everybody know that you are a copywriter and you are accepting work. All right, the next question I have is from Amrit Jetwa, and Amrit asks, hey Belinda, what are your top 3 tips on engaging copy on writing engaging copy to college students? And I followed up with a question going, what's the copy going to be doing? What does it need to do? And Amrit replied, recruiting students into university. So it could be promoting courses, promoting campuses, etc. And so 3 tips I have here. Understand what problems and pains and frustrations that they have. What are the blocks stopping them, right? And then the second thing is understand where they want to get to. So you can understand the blocks and the frustrations and the pain points when you know where they want to get to. What is their ultimate outcome that they're striving to get for? Now, the basis of this is really understanding intimately. First 2 tips, understanding where they want to go and understanding what's stopping them getting there, is all about understanding your audience. You will write a lot more engaging copy, and that was the word to use, engaging copy, if you really understand your audience, because engaging them is getting their attention, and you get their attention when you understand them, when you speak the language of their problems and you speak the language of the transformation that they're going after. And then the third tip I have, how would I write engaging copy, is, this is all about positioning the solution as something that will take them from where they are to where they want to go. That is how you create engaging copy. You make it meaningful for the audience. So, hang on a minute. Girls, you need to leave the office, please. Okay, all right, just take a breath. I'm doing something right now. I'll be able to help soon. Okay, we got sister things going on here right now. So that's what I mean. Engaging is getting their attention, making the copy meaningful, and positioning this solution, the college solution, as what will get them from the pains to the transformation. Now, you might have thought, it's all about using slang and speaking their language and using short sentences. And, there is an element of really nailing a brand voice. But if the brand voice, i.e. the college, is really separate to the voice of the audience, college students, it's going to sound terrible if the college starts to speak in the language of the students, right? It's kind of like when your dad starts using cool and hip and rad, and you're like, please stop. I'm not available.
I just want to ask you something.
So hopefully this is mum life, work at home life, trying to do all the things. Okay, hang on a minute. I'm not available. So you need to help out now. Okay, go and ask your dad.
I'm not
push on. This is just going to happen because we've got questions and I want to answer them, and I'm going to do my best for you, even though we're getting to a tricky time of the day here. So, Amrit, I hope that helps, right? It's all about it's all about knowing your audience and getting their attention by knowing their pain points, where they want to go, and positioning your solution as the thing that will get them there. Okay. All right, so the next question I have is from Jennifer Long. Hang on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to text my husband. Okay, hang on. Are you going to be quiet? You can stay in here if you want to be quiet. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm just saying it's all kicking off in my office. All right, thank you for your patience, everyone. Sometimes this is what life is like. It's trying to do your best around the very real needs of other people. Okay, so right now I'm helping you. I will be available to help you in a little while, okay? All right, so Jennifer Long, this is your question. How do you manage perfectionism? Right, I don't. How do you manage perfectionism in your writing? I totally understand the need to strive for perfect in tasks like writing a hero statement when every syllable counts, and we just did that in confident copywriting. How do you find the balance when you're writing articles, for example? When is good enough enough? And this is a fantastic question. Now, Lyra, thank you for understanding. So even in a hero statement, we just did a hero statement writing workshop in confident copywriting, and I think what really came out in the comments is that you have to have a first draft. You have to try and have something there, and then you have to practice and refine it. So I would let go of perfect all the time, because you're going to have something, knowing that you will refine it later on. And it's much easier to do for your own marketing. But your question's about when is good enough for your clients. And one thing I always strive for is to have the first draft about 80% done. And, there's that ugly first draft, but that's not for clients, right? My clients will often see actually kind of version 4 or 5 of that first draft. But I've had clients who have seen the first draft and gone, I love it, it's awesome, I've just loaded it up to the sales page. And I've gone, what? That needs to be proofread. And so I quickly got it proofread. But your first draft needs to be good enough that a client could approve it and publish it. Now, if you need some ideas and direction and stuff like that, then really set the scene for that, where you go, this is kind of just halfway through the first draft, but I need your input to help me make progress. And that's a whole different Q&A session. But one of the rules I like to use for my writing is coming up with a time map, right? So if I have quoted a specific amount of time for a writing project, I do not like to go over that amount of time. So I get what I can get done in the time that's quoted, and then I see where we're at. Now, that is a way that you will stop over-delivering, because there is a diminishing point of returns where you can just spend more time on the copy, but it doesn't really get any better. And so one of the things we've been talking about in confident copywriting with one member, Zoe Heard, she was like, I write a lot of blogs and I'm spending way more time because I'm actually adding in all this extra information that wasn't really asked for and possibly isn't required, but it makes it a better blog. And the conversation we've been having is, does it need to be a better blog? You're not getting paid for the difference between great and freaking awesome. So you have to accept that great is good enough to hit send. Now, the third point I want to mention is I hit send when I'm just fiddling, right? Because I'm just burning time. I'm sort of going, which or that? I'm just changing a word here or there, and then I'm often changing it back to what it was before. When I'm only changing a word here or there, I am just burning my time as a copywriter. I've got the main ideas on the page. The draft is as good as it's going to be in that version of writing, and I need to hand it over to the client to get input and direction. So that's kind of 3 ways I use to put a cap on how long I spend on that first draft. I hope that helps. All right, so Amy, I've got your question. Amy Lopez, your question is next. Any advice on copy fatigue? And MD, hi, I see your question. So Amy, I have a really great resource in Confident Copywriting about this, so I'm just going to actually open that up. And this is when you actually said, because I clarified, when you're jumping from project to project and there's that brain overload, how do you do to center yourself and keep going? So the first thing is don't jump from project to project. Create writing zones where you are focusing on one thing, and then you can go deep. Because if you're skipping from this to that to the other, your brain, your ability to focus is like a rock skimming on water. You just can't do it. So rather than going from project to project, say I am going to work on project A for 1 hour or 2 hours, and then I'm going to stop working on that and I'm going to move to project B and I'm going to work on that for 2 hours, right? And that might be your day, because you've got to be clear on how long you can write for before your brain starts leaking out. So that's the first tip. Create some writing zones, declare how long you're going to spend on a project, and don't flit between tasks. That means email, social, other projects, right? But you also need to train yourself to be able to write for fairly decent amounts of time during the day. And this is just exactly like training your muscles. You need to kind of build up your writing endurance if you want to earn more money. You can't do an hour of writing a day and expect to have a big earning profitable business. So some other tips I have for you are, when you really don't feel like working, so this is one when we're like, I just don't feel like it today, or I just don't feel like writing this today, I like to start with something easy. I start with what I know. I often do the contact page first, or I nail out the calls to action, or I create the copy deck. I do some kind of like light admin, and I think of this as kind of just getting my fingers moving, right? Start with the easy things first. And then I like to read the copywriting brief again to kind of get me in the mood, get me in the zone. And then the other thing I like to do is create page outlines. So this is definitely part of a planning process, where the more I invest in planning my copy, using a framework like Pain, Agitate, Solve, filling it with bullet points that I've taken from the brief, the faster the writing takes me, and it's a hell of a lot easier as well. So we've got start with something easy, read the brief again, create a page outline or a page structure, and then start with what you know in that copy. If you find the headline really hard to write, I never write the headline first. I never write the first paragraph first. I start with the easy stuff. I start with what I know. It's often in the middle of the page. I often start with the middle and write out. And the last one I have for you is reward yourself, right? Rather than just say, I need to write this all day and getting to the end of the day, say I'm going to write for 2 hours and then I'm going to go for a quick walk around the block as a reward for myself. It's really important to acknowledge the progress that we make. So I hope they are some usable ideas for you. Now, the other side of this, Amy, is how do you keep your kind of mojo going when you're really busy, when you have a lot on? And there's a few ideas here where you can make sure you have defined working spaces. Make sure that you have an end of day routine. Give yourself breaks during the day. And again, reward yourself with something a little fun for actually getting through that. It's really important to protect your writing mojo if you want to do lots of billable hours during the day and churn out consistently good work. It's about having a strong writing process, about knowing when you work best, and about rewarding yourself as well. So let me know if that fits the bill for you, Amy. It's all still going on in the background here. Thank you all for your patience. All right. Okay, Amy, I've got a second question here from you. Excellent. Amy Lopez asks, when you started freelancing, did you start with a deposit or full upfront payment structure? I've always asked for a deposit, 50% upfront. The only time I ask for upfront work is when I've been on a retainer and they pay upfront for the month's work ahead, or it's a really small job. So like under $500, you pay upfront. But I didn't do that initially, but I always asked for a deposit. Initially, my deposit was 30%, but the industry standard now is 50%. So that was a nice, easy one. All right, next question. Becky Salvatore, thank you, Becky. What is your most fail-safe way to find your first client as a newbie? And I'm going to do, so I'm Googling Hot Copy Podcast finding clients, right? And the first entry is how to find copywriting clients. Now, this gives you a lot of ideas, and I'm just going to put it in the in here right now. Check this out. Now, I know that's not exactly what you asked because it gives you a lot of ideas, and you asked me for a fail-safe idea. And it goes back to the question I answered at the beginning, and it's basically the most fail-safe way to book a client in is through the relationships and network that you already have, right? When people can refer work to you, it comes with a whole bundle of trust. It comes with them endorsing you as a copywriter. So it involves letting people know. It involves creating those relationships if you don't already have them. Graphic designers, printers, website developers, agencies are in this category, but they're a little harder to kind of get in with. And they have always been the fastest converting, least effort, most profitable projects for me. So I hope that helps, Becky. Low Raz here. Cool, I'm just checking the comments here. Oh, Amy, you're welcome. Lowe's here. Oh, new puppy. I love that. Okay. Laura asks, best industry niches for email newsletter writers. This is a good one. You know what? The first thing that springs to mind is e-commerce, right? E-commerce emails are a really defined and profitable niche. Summer Owe, she has e-commerce emails as her niche, extremely powerful. Liana Patch, she's a humorous copywriter, but she also focuses on e-commerce, and a big part of those regular emails that go out are newsletters. But you know what? I think so many niches send out roundup. As soon as you get business service, B2B services, there are going to be newsletters. I would love everyone else to chime in here. What do you think the industries, the best industries to target for newsletters? It's difficult because I would say all industries. I have got a newsletter from pretty much every type of business that you can imagine, which doesn't really help you right now. But I would love everyone else to jump in. So and let me know what you think. All right, now I'm just going to flick over to the Copyright Matters Facebook page because I got some really great questions over there. But first, Megan Brain, hi. I've got your question here. How would you recommend someone start a copywriting career? Is there any courses you'd recommend? Mine, of course. Mine, of course. So I have a copywriting masterclass. See, I'm itchy just having that weird kind of self-promotion moment. I have a course called the Copywriting Masterclass, and it's not a business development course, it's a copywriting course. And some courses, this is a difference, some courses will teach you about copywriting and teach you about business, but they will go pretty light in both in order to have that much content in the course. Mine is just copywriting, and I basically teach you like everything you need to know to get started as a copywriter and feel reasonably confident about it. These are foundational beginner tactics, techniques, frameworks, and processes, because I like to think about it as giving you a rock solid foundation in your writing skills. From there, you can build into e-commerce, into emails, into sales pages, into opt-in, into direct response, all those kind of things. But if you don't know your feature from your benefit and you don't know your motives from your awareness, then you're never really going to be able to build and get more developed, because there's that kind of ceiling we reach when we write on instinct. We can be good writers on instinct, but we will always reach a ceiling that we just won't get past, because higher paying clients demand a more sophisticated level. But you don't get to that if you haven't got the basics really dialed in. Now, it's a really big course and it's a premium price course, so there are other courses as well. So rather than just pitching you my course, some things to look for are the breadth of the content. So does it cover a lot of different areas? So that if you can get any kind of work reviewed, if there are exercises to help you practice, and if you can get that work reviewed in any kind of capacity, that's really helpful. On my course, it's all about the worksheets and I review them, and there's a lot of writing coaching involved, which is quite intense, but I know is extremely valuable, because that is how you get better. That is really the zone in which you get better. Self-study courses will only get you so far, but you need someone to show you where you can improve your writing. So the breadth of the copy, whether there's the content, whether there's any exercises, whether there's any kind of coaching involved, as someone reviewing your work and stuff like that. And then also things like lifetime access to the content, because I think that's pretty much a must these days. So hopefully that will help you. You'll find lots of different price ranges. It's definitely one of those things you get what you pay for, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot of quality mid-range courses. But if you really wanted to get that rock solid foundation, I have mine. It's called the Copywriting Masterclass, and you'll find it on my website, copyrightmatters.com. All right. Amy Lopez has dropped in the chat for you, Lo, health services for email newsletters, yoga, holistic services, nutrition coaches. Great. Okay, Megan, no worries. I'm just reading that. All right. So MD Isha asks, can you tell a daily must-do thing for beginner copywriters? I would say a few. I think it's learning, and that might be reading books. It might be taking a course. It might be reading blogs online. So a course gives you the benefit of putting it all together for you. But at first, I did a course to start off with, because I didn't want to I found reading blogs and reading books and all these little bits of information, I found it overwhelming. But some kind of learning time, I would say that. Some people find it extremely useful to write out copy by hand. I've never done that, but I can absolutely see the benefit, because there is science around, writing and how our brains retain information and stuff like that. The other thing, I know you said one, but you said that's one, but I'm going to give you two. So learning and marketing, making connections with people, getting involved in conversations, getting to know copywriters, graphic designers, website developers, and printers, and positioning yourself as a copywriter. You will learn a lot from groups like this, where people are asking questions you didn't even know you had to ask, right? So there's two things, learning and networking. I think they will serve you the most. All right, now I'm going to flip over to the what's my business name? Copyright Matters business page. Okay, so next question. Katie Lindley asks, I write technical and government documentation for a living, from tech to biz lingo. What's the best way to copyright? I see some write properly structured paragraphs and others write single sentence as a paragraph, which drives me crazy. And in the comments I was like, embrace the single sentence paragraph, even the single word paragraph. Like, it's all about, you have to pay attention to how people are reading the copy, and that is how it's presented. And sometimes those one word or one sentence paragraphs need the space around them to let them land, to have impact and stuff like that. But Kate followed up in the comments. I just want to know more about the best styles to write in, being an aspiring copywriter. Okay, so this is a great question. I think the best style to write in is conversational copywriting. Now, when I first started, that was a niche, right? It wasn't really it didn't really have a name. But conversational copywriting has become, hang on, please be careful. I'm worried you're going to hurt yourself.
Mom.
Conversational copywriting has just become the benchmark of all copywriting, especially online. And it's basically writing like people talk in everyday language. Now, obviously, we make it better. So, you often hear a thing, write like you speak. But you want to make it better than that. You want to make it more intentional than that. But there's a very big difference between how people express ideas in conversation and how people express ideas when they start typing. More often than not, when I've got a wobbly desk because I have a little person crawling up the side. So when people start writing, they get stiff, they get formal, their ideas kind of choke up, and it's often not very nice to read. But this is what happens with clients. When I ask them to tell me something, how did you get started? Why did you get started? What does this do? What purpose does it serve? All that kind of stuff. Then the good stuff starts tumbling out because they stop thinking about the words and they're just expressing their passion and purpose. And that's really what conversational copywriting taps into. This idea that what happens when we talk to each other, the ideas just flow, everything, well, mostly, it becomes a bit more natural, and that's what we want to try and capture in the language we use in the copy. Hang on, that's getting a bit too wobbly, please. Hang on, I'm going to just do this. Okay, what a day. So when it comes to, even businesses like SaaS businesses, software as a service, and really high-tech companies, they are embracing this kind of slightly more casual, this is the reason, slightly more casual copy. And it's speaking directly to the reader. It's tapping into their pains and their frustrations. It's positioning the solution as the thing that will get them to where they want to go. All the things that I talked about for where is the question I had, for the question I answered earlier. I'm just going to find the name for Amrit's question earlier. But as soon as it becomes a little bit more casual and a little bit more conversational, it's instantly more readable. And then, of course, we have the craft and the technique and the science to tighten up and make it more persuasive and have more impact. But that is the long answer to your quick question, Kate. I hope that helps. All right. No, we need to stop touching things on my desk, please.
Mom.
So Jimba asked this question. Next question by Jimba. How do I choose a particular niche to specialize in? Really good question, Jimba. Basically, you don't have to have a niche, right? A lot of copywriters are told, you can find a niche, specialize, you can charge more. And that is 100% true. People will charge more to work with a specialist. It's true in all areas. But if you're just getting started, I personally advise people to be a generalist. Please stop.
Mom.
No. I advise people to be a generalist before they niche, because until you've written for a lot of different types of businesses, right, and you haven't experienced the variety of trying to understand different types of businesses and trying to write in different tones of voice, that is a foundation that you can really build on when you discover a niche. But that wasn't your question. How do you decide on a niche? Basically, decide on a niche because it's something you're really, really interested in. I know people who have got into health and wellness copywriting because they have a huge passion and interest in that field. They don't necessarily have qualifications, but they go and they learn and they get qualifications because it's a huge source of interest for them. Another niche could be that it's something from your past career, because I actually was in IT for nearly 10 years, and the first marketing job I got was for a software company. So this is something like I could have gone on to be a SaaS writer, an IT writer, things like that, but I wanted to get the hell out of that industry, so I intentionally did not choose that as my niche. But that could be another way. So something you're really interested in or something you've done as a previous career, they are two ways to choose your niche. So I hope that helps, Jimba. All right. So I'm just going to check the comments to see if anything has popped up. Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm glad you're all saying she's such a cutie pie. Other people's children, eh? Now, next question is by Kat Bautista. And Kat asks, how do you write an about page? And this is such a big question. This is a real one of, an area that a copywriter can specialize in. Not necessarily as a niche, but it's one of the most visited pages on the website. So if you can write... Hang on, Osman. Okay. Yes. Yes, one question from the side, yes.
When are you going to get ice cream and when are you going to be done?
Well, I'll tell you when we're going to get ice cream. It's when I'm done. See, that was the promise, get ice cream. However, you know what you have to do, okay? Right. So, it's such a big question. The about page would be after the home page, the most visited page on the website. It is the page that people visit just before they make a decision, because someone can visit your homepage and go, yep, I'm in the right place. This is clearly someone who can solve my problem and I like the cut of their jib. Then they might look through services and products pages going, yep, cool, this solves my problem. There's lots of credibility here. This looks like someone I can trust, but they have testimonials and results and the stories they're telling and the details of the product and the service. This all looks good. Now, I'm going to go to the about page and I'm going to decide if they are the kind of person I might want to work with. It's a huge part in the decision-making page. So this page is all about expressing your story in a way that is also clear that how it benefits the customer. So you hear a line, it's not about you, it's about the client. Well, it is about you, but the client only cares about how your experience benefits them. So some of the things I like to answer on an about page is how someone got started. Can you move back, please? Everyone thinks you're really adorable, but please stop doing that. How and why someone got started, because there's usually a really good, juicy story in why someone started their business. Why they keep going, right? What do they love about what they do now? Because, no one wants to work with someone who hates their job. Then there's credentials and experience, where they've come from, and this is where you can flip it around to how the client benefits and what that means for the client experience today. And then, of course, we need to transition into a call to action. Always have a call to action on an about page. Now, that's not all I would put on an about page. I would also try and include some more personable details, like what people like to do in their spare time. What they love, what they hate. I love dogs. I hate chai lattes. I like rock climbing. I have kids. Details like that. I love Doctor Who. That's my big one. So the reason you include details like that is it gives people Velcro-like hooks. Stop it, please. Because what you want is an audience to say, me too. We have something in common. Okay, hang on. Wait, you're running out of screen now, okay? Just had to do the mum talk. So, no, I'm not available. We're almost done. When you add personal details, they let the reader understand what kind of person this is like. Your credentials are fine. The origin story is great. How tying it all back into how it benefits me as a customer, brilliant. But if you tell me you love Doctor Who, I'm like, oh, I like Doctor Who too, right? And I'm closing all the other tabs because I've just made my decision because we have something huge in common. So that's another missing piece for the about page. Now, I'm just going to check the comments here. Saira says, can HR, human resources, be a niche for a copywriter? As I'm an HR professional. Yes, absolutely. Now that's writing for a specific audience. That would probably include a lot of internal communications as well as external marketing. And, often companies have someone within the company that takes care of internal comms. So that's something to think about. You can niche in whatever you want, but the questions you also have to ask is this a viable niche to supply me with enough work to run a profitable business? So if I was starting out, I would absolutely start with what you know. Osman? Start with what you know. If that's what you know, that will be your low-hanging fruit in terms of how easy it is to write the copy. Okay? And then you might discover, so what from your own experience, you will know what HR professionals need in terms of comms. So that could give you an inside edge in terms of the problems that you're going to solve. Right. I'm just double checking the questions. Remember, say hello if you're here live. #replay. I'm just checking. I've answered them all. Wow, I'd like to thank you all for your patience. This one was a bit crazy, but you know what? This is what life is like. Everyone is home. Business still continues. And sometimes we just have to go bright red, then calm down and just push on. And I know all the parents watching this will completely understand that, because this isn't a pandemic thing for me. This is an all the time thing. And when I have coaching calls for my courses and my coaching group, Confident Copywriting, dogs, children, interruptions are all welcome. But gosh, it can be little moments of fluff as you try and keep it all together. So that's it for today. We have these regular AMA sessions. I'm going to go back and put the answers in the comments as well. But right now, I pledged ice cream. I'm not sure if it's still on the table, but I can't say no to ice cream. That's what we need to do right now. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for such excellent questions. And I'll see you next time.